Hey everyone, this is Daniel from PhoneArena with the Huawei Ascend Mate, a phone with a monster 6.1-inch display, which is the second largest screen size after the Samsung Galaxy Mega 6.3. The phone can be considered compact for its screen size. In fact, Huawei boasts the best phone to screen size ratio of 73%, but that actually goes to the Xperia ZL, which has 75% plus screen to phone size ratio. But this here is pretty compact for a 6.1-inch screen, thanks to the on-screen navigational buttons, and it is quite shorter and more narrow at the same time than the Samsung Galaxy Mega 6.3, which we have here as well. As you can see, much shorter and more narrow. But it still feels no less awkward to hold than Samsung's largest, despite the tapered back that goes down to 6.5 millimeters here by the edges. Thankfully, the obligatory one-handed phablet UI is here, shrinking the dial pad and the keyboard left or right, depending on which hand you're holding the phone with, aiding one-handed usage. The build quality is pretty decent, but the choice of plastic feels a bit cheap. This soft touch coating on the back is very grippable, so it does the job, but its quality doesn't leave the same premium feel that other such soft layers do. Same goes for the rim surrounding the sides here, which has a coarse feeling surface, aiding the grip further, but spoiling the look somewhat. Huawei says the phone has a dual antenna design, and there are two notches cut in the side rim here, hinting at an external antenna perhaps, like on the iPhone or the Nokia Lumia 925. The side rim is also interrupted by protective flaps in the same color, which cover the SIM card and the microSD slots, as the phone is unibody with a sealed battery compartment. The power lock key here on the right and the volume rocker underneath it are very well situated and easy to feel and press, with pretty good tactile feedback to them. The whole front is recessed quite a bit, as you can see, leaving a protective frame around the display part so as it doesn't scratch when placed face down or doesn't shatter into pieces from the slightest contact with the ground. Apparently, Huawei couldn't ring the manufacturer which produces Full HD displays at that size and had to make do with 720 by 1280 pixels HD resolution for the 6.1-inch IPS screen, which still leaves it at pretty decent 241 ppi pixel density. The screen also sports the Magic Touch technology, so-called by Huawei, allowing you to use it with gloves on, which can be turned on and off here from the settings, and you can answer a call while riding the ski lift, for example. The color representation can also be changed with a slider here in the display settings menu. It's in the middle by default, but you can switch from warm to very cold color representation, though the difference would be negligible for the untrained eye. Being an IPS display, the Ascend Mate panel flaunts very good viewing angles, as you can see, with only a slight shift in brightness and contrast at extreme angles. Peak brightness is about 400 nits, the LCD average, meaning that you have issues outside under direct sunlight, though the phone sports a pretty good coating, diminishing the unpleasant effect of mirror reflections when a light source falls on the screen directly. Now let's have a look at how the interface behaves on this giant display. The first thing you notice about Huawei's Emotion UI overlay on top of Android 4.1.2 is that it does away with the up drawer and centers everything around the home screens. The widgets are compact with minimized border distance, so you can fit a lot of them on one screen. The apps are neatly tucked and categorized into folders here on the next screen. And the third houses the apps you've downloaded, and so on. Another great feature is the ability to hide the on-screen navigation bar at will here with this small arrow on the left. Then flick your finger up and it appears, and that goes for whichever app you're currently into. You can have the whole 6.1-inch display at your disposal easily. not only in the gallery and while watching videos. So Android and Google should take notice. The other nice idea are the so-called profiles with their own switch in the notification bar toggles. A ring dialer appears here. When you press it, you can choose from several presets like work, home, sleep. Let's choose the sleep one. As you can see, volume will turn to 0, brightness to 7%, calling will be off, only messaging, and return back to normal. Each profile can have an abundance of settings for everything, from sounds volume through display options to connectivity choices, and you can add and tinker with your own or make them automatically swap at any given time. You can see how we can hide here the on-screen navigational button. We've shrunk the keyboard on the right, so it's easier to type on it with just your thumb. You can shrink it to the left, and you can also do the same with the dial pad and the calculator, thus easing the one-handed operation on the Huawei Ascend Mate, which has a pretty neat and functional emotion interface that would really make you look for another launcher in the Play Store. The upside of the mere HD resolution is that there aren't as many pixels to push for the GPU, and the second generation Homebrew 1.5 GHz quad-core processor is powering the handset. It's called K3V2, and as far as benchmarks go, it puts it somewhere in the golden middle. The subjective feeling when strolling the interface or going in and out of apps is that the chipset is fast enough, and we didn't notice the lag or stuttering. Huawei has the decency to put 2 GB of RAM into the Ascend Mate, but only provides 8 gigs of internal storage, and just 3 GB of those are user available, though there is a memory card slot for expansion on the side, so no biggie. The downside of homemade chipset is that the processor might not support instructions optimized for more popular chips like Qualcomm's Snapdragon family or Samsung's Exynos. So the GL benchmark app froze on us, for example, and the phone had to be restarted. We got 5,173 on Quadrant, which is a pretty run-of-the-mill result. The default Ascend Mate browser is pretty bare bones as far as interface goes. Just a couple of taps and settings. But it renders the pages well and has the added benefit of supporting side-loaded Adobe Flash, so you won't be left out when you come across a piece of the web which needs Flash to run. Needless to say, browsing on this 6.1-inch display is a joy despite the average pixel density. Due to the sheer screen size, the phone is a pentaband HSPA phone, meaning it supports all major frequency bands, so you can use it on both AT&T and T-Mobile in the US, for example, as well as in Europe and Asia. For international travelers, Huawei touts that the dual antenna design supports high-powered data transmission and is optimized with ratio combining methods to increase network reception by 20 to 30% coverage, more than your typical smartphone. There's also Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.0 assisted GPS and FM radios, plus Wi-Fi Direct and DLNA wireless streaming. The bottom port is a regular micro USB, so no additional MHL functionality here. The typical grid thumbnail view in the gallery is about all you get, with no fancy pinching rearrangements. And the picture editing options are more limited than what we used to see with phones recently. Just a couple of cropping, resizing and color effects, more limited than on other phones, for example. The music player is pretty basic visually too, with the obligatory tune categorization by artists, albums, playlists, even genres. But the only thing we didn't like about the interface is the lack of landscape mode, which is present on the Samsung Galaxy Mega 6.3, for example, and really helps when you have such a huge display. The camera app interface that governs the 8-megapixel shooter on the back is comparatively simple, with a few basic shooting modes like panorama, HDR, low light and burst shots, plus a couple of color effects and laughing mirror effects as well. Nothing fancy, but most stuff you might need is here. Pictures from the Ascend Mate, however, come out overly soft at the edges with sharp focus at the center only, which could indicate a low quality lens issue. We wish it captured a bit more detail as well. Color representation is otherwise decent, and there generally aren't any glaring issues with white balance metering or exposure compensation. Video is recorded in 1080p with smooth 30 frames per second and exhibits good image quality when there's enough light around. Indoors, in low light settings, the video becomes extremely noisy though. The Huawei Ascend Mate, however, is one of the very few phones that can record stereo sound with its two noise-cancelling microphones. Because of the phone's size, their locations leave an abundance of space in between, which makes for a very good video stereo recording, though still not of the rank that comes with the Nokia 808 PureView, for example. With big screen handsets like the Huawei Ascend Mate here, the game is to replace your phone, your tablet, laptop, camera and so on with one converging device you always carry with you, but we'll leave to Mr. Market to decide whether this can be done via a 6.1-inch smartphone successfully enough. On the plus side, Huawei has equipped the Ascend Mate with the largest stock battery in a smartphone at 4050 milliamperes, so that you can keep watching movies on the plane for 10 hours straight, claims Huawei. Not only that, but the phone is an all-around quality package for the sub $500 price unlocked, with its stereo sound recording, great call quality, a super sensitive display and pentaband radio. The only gripe with the phone we have, if you love them big screens, is the camera, as the lens seemed unable to produce a well-focused image anywhere but in the center of the frame. Direct competitors are phones like the Galaxy 6.3 here and the 5.8, but the larger one comes more expensive, and the only advantage before the Ascend Mate is the comparatively sleeker design here. Of course, for Benjamin Moore you can get the wildly popular and slightly smaller Galaxy Note 2, but if you're into the largest screen possible in the most manageable size out there, Huawei Ascend Mate can be beat. So to recap the advantages of the phone, it has ample battery capacity, stereo sound recording, pentaband radio, very good call quality, neat and functional emotion UI. The screen can be used with gloves on, and as disadvantages we would point out that the pictures look sharp only at the center of the frame. The low light video is very noisy, and just a third of the 8 GB of internal storage is user available here. This was a video review of the Huawei Ascend Mate from PhoneArena. For more information about this and other handsets, you can visit us at PhoneArena.com. Thanks for watching.